Hello, my name is Obafemi Oyewumi. I welcome you all to this Elements of Cost Accounting class. We're looking at material, nature, and cost. Let's look at the objectives of this particular session. At the end of this particular session, students are expected to know and to appreciate the nature and classification of materials, have a good understanding of material management, and to know the different categories of stock cost and to understand the purchasing procedures. Now let's look at the nature and classification of materials. We're saying here that materials are a major part of the cost or total cost of producing a particular item. Okay, material cost components is one of the most important assets um, of a business enterprise, and what it means is that it forms a bulk of the current asset, okay, of a particular company, and of course, again, materials are also issued out or sold to customers. So materials is very very important to every organization. Materials are of two types. Okay, the first one is direct materials. Okay, and the second one is indirect materials. For direct materials, these are materials that can be easily traced or attributable to individual units being manufactured, by a particular organization. Okay, whereas the indirect materials are those materials that are quite of small value, although they are also important, but of course their value is quite small. They are just the nuts, the pins, the screws that are suited with producing a particular product. So they are not easily traceable to the cost, I mean, of the cost component of a particular product, and that's why they are indirect. Let's look at materials management. Okay, materials management. This has to do with planning and control of materials. It is important for every organization to plan and to control, their material usage or storage, as it were. Okay, and what is planning here? Planning has to do with what to store, where to buy, when to buy, and how much to buy. Okay, and of course, everything is dependent on what the company is actually established to carry out. So if a company is involved in buying and selling of furniture, for example, it means that what they'll be storing will be furniture items. Okay, of course, they have to know where to buy furniture items and when to buy furniture items and how much to buy those particular items. Material costs are in four categories. Okay, and of course the best strategy for every firm is to see or to have a policy that will minimize the total cost of all of these cost items. Let's look at the categories of stock cost. Number one is purchase cost. Purchase cost. What is a purchase cost? This is basically the actual cost of buying the items or product. That's the direct cost. Okay, it can be derived by multiplying the total units of items purchased by the amount per item. So once you know the total number of units, you multiply by the cost per item, then that gives you your purchase cost at the end of the day. Okay, the second one is ordering cost. What is an ordering cost? Let's look at what order. Order is to say that you are relating with the supplier to bring in goods into your store. Okay, so what are the costs that are associated, with ordering costs? Number one, you have to send inquiries. You have to before you even talk about placing an order, you have to know who you are buying from. Okay, send inquiries to them. Okay, and of course, at the end of the day, you have to write purchase orders. You have to make telephone calls. You have to at times maybe even pay, visit the place, for you to know and ascertain the type of product that they are bringing to the organization. So that's ordering. So at the end of the day, if you have to also spend money on transportation, then you also have to factor that in as part of the ordering cost. Okay, so the cost of ordering will be dependent on the frequency of the order being placed by the organization, and that is very correct. Let's look at the other categories. Carrying cost. What do we mean by carrying cost? Okay, this cost consists um, of cost associated with keeping of stock. Okay, this invariably includes cost of money tied down in the inventory. So there are opportunity cost of tying down money in the organization, as part of your inventory. Number two is also the actual cost of the capital that you also tie down. Is also cost part of the carrying cost. Insurance paid. Okay, rent for the shop or warehouse, the cost of obsolescence and deterioration. So carrying costs are expressed in fixed percentage of naira value of the average stock carried in, or the stock cost of holding a stock item for a particular period. Stockout cost. Stockout cost is a cost that we incur when customers' needs or demands cannot be met by the organization. So when a company cannot meet because they don't have enough or is exhausted, that brings about what is called a stockout cost. This includes loss of current sales, so you're going to lose sales, premium payments for rush deliveries, and you may have to go and buy urgently. You're going to pay more when you have to rush to go and buy, materials. Okay, what about loss of goodwill? So if they keep coming and you don't have, after a while, customers will just perhaps say, if I go there, I will not get. So I don't have to go there again. So you lose your goodwill, also lose future sales. So those are the stock out, costs. So let's look at the total material cost, even as we have it here. Number one is the purchase cost, number two plus the ordering cost, plus carrying cost, plus stock out cost. So that's the total cost of material, cost basically. Now let's go further and look at the methods of purchasing materials. What are the methods of purchasing materials? Okay, number one, we have two basic methods. The first one is centralized purchasing, and the second one is localized purchasing. Okay, the first centralized purchasing is the first one. This is a situation whereby only one department is responsible for all the purchases, in the organization. When you have only one department that is purchasing all the material needs of the organization, then you have what is called a centralized purchasing. And there, of course, there are some advantages that are associated with centralized purchase. Number one, specialized and expert knowledge is available, reduce cost of purchases. That's you buy in bulk, okay, larger discount, lower transportation costs, and lower prices. Okay, when you buy in bulk. Number three, there's also a good knowledge of market condition. When it's only one particular that's buying, there will be an adequate knowledge of the market condition that you will have. Okay, when materials have to be imported, it's also advantageous to buy centrally when you are importing. So you can't allow different departments to be importing at the same time for the same organization. So when you are buying and you are bringing in goods from outside of the country, so it's advantageous when you have centralized buying. Okay, number economy and ease of compilation and consultation of results is also there. It enables the firm to know readily the material within the firm, at any given time. That's the time. Okay, and then investors can also be reduced. Okay, so it's important for us to know that decision they have to take when it comes to structuralization has to be geographical separation of plant, size of manufacturing company, homogeneity of product, types of material bought, location of supplies, and etc. And so on. The second one is decentralization. Decentralization of purchases. In this method, each department is responsible for its own purchases. Okay, so this one allows departments to buy, on their own. Okay, and of course there are some advantages and also disadvantages. Okay, each plant may have its own particular need. So if I have my need as the director of a particular plant, I can go after. I don't have to rely on what others are also going to be buying. Then direct contact can also be established with the suppliers, and then timeline between indenting and receiving of materials can also be reduced. And of course, technical requirements for e-plans can also be ascertained and followed, as much as possible. So that talks about methods of purchasing. Now let's look at the purchasing procedures. What are the procedures put in place for purchasing to be made? Okay, how do you bring in goods into the store? Okay, the steps usually follow for purchase of materials can be enumerated as follows. So let's look at them one after the other. There are six of them. The first one is purchase requisition for materials. So at a particular point in time, the store department prepares a requisition for materials that are out of stock or very low in quantity and send it to the or purchasing department as they call it. Okay, requisitions are prepared periodically and placed when the ordering level for different items of stock are reached. Okay, so what we're saying here is that the store, as the store manager heading the store department, we prepare what is called a purchase requisition note. Okay, to say that we are low in stock concerning this particular material, or maybe low in stock or out of stock, completely. So they place a requisition that's telling the purchasing department to please go ahead and begin to prepare to order goods that are low, in stock. So the requisition note that to be prepared, purchase requisition note to be prepared will include date of issue, requisition number, code and description of material, the quantity required, the date of delivery, that is, that's expected date of delivery, and then the signature of the official authorizing the requisition. Number two, purchase orders. The purchasing department haven't received the um, the requisition from the store will place an order to suppliers. So the suppliers quote their price, times of price, delivery, and all the other details. Okay, and of course, at the end of the day, there will be another that will be placed, that will be given to the suppliers to bring to the store. In the course of doing that, tenders are, exchanged. Okay, and then they look at it, they consider the one that's appropriate, while giving consideration to the reliability of the supplier, the quality of goods and time that will take the suppliers to supply, the financial stability and capacity to deliver. That's on the part of the supplier. Okay, and sometimes purchase may also be, made without inviting quotation. So what it means that several considerations will be put, at the end of the day, a decision will be taken to say, okay, this is what we want to do at this part. This is the person that we're placing our orders. So there will be other consideration that will be done at this particular point in time, okay, for another to be processed and to know who will be required to supply. So here is just to determine who will be supplying the goods to the store. The next one is to place, the PO, that's the purchase order, basically. Okay, the first step, it appears the nomenclature now is quite, quite similar. The one is to prepare the ground for the first one is to prepare the ground for the supplier to supply. Okay, and then the second one now is to place the order. So the purchaser has a legal and accounting significance. From legal point of view, it binds the parties to the terms of the contract. From the accounting point of view, it signifies the amount which has to be spent. Okay, so a PO is raised at the end of the day, having agreed at the quantity, the type, the quality, and the person to supply. So another is, placed with the supplier, and then in the PO, that's purchase order, the description of the exact material will be given. The quantity and the price for each product will also be stated there. The name and the address of the supplier will also be stated there, and then the required date of the delivery will also be detailed in the place, and then the signature of the officer placing the order. Okay, it's also very important. Then the fourth one is the receipt and inspection of materials. So when the suppliers bring in goods into the store, okay, the next thing is to receive and to inspect the order, to compare what was given and what was delivered. So that talks about receipt and inspection of the material. So the supplier delivers goods at the space specified, at the place specified. Two delivery notes are prepared, usually prepared by the supplier, one of which is returned. It's a proof of delivery. Okay, after receiving the good, the special department or the production department or maintenance department, as the case may be, is intimated, and then the inspector checks that the materials are in accordance with the quality required, standard expected, tolerance, level that's also allowed. Okay, so after the inspection, a special note is prepared in triplicate. One copy is sent to the supplier, one to the store, and one to the inspection department. Then the fifth one is receiving of materials to the store. Okay, that's the fifth one. The store department will now prepare what is called a good receipt note for the quantity of stock received into the store. Okay, after issuing the store receipt, the storekeeper is responsible for the stock. So for that particular moment, the storekeeper accepts and brings the thing into the store. Okay, he takes responsibility from that particular moment, of course. And then the final one is checking and passing of bills for payment. So after the supply has been made, okay, and the way bill given, good receipt note, receipt. Okay, so the next thing is to pass a bill that must have come with either the way bill or come with the supply or pass to. So everything will be put together and sent to the accounting session for the purpose of you know uh, making payments for the goods that have been received. So we have come to the end of this particular session. If you have any comments, you can put it in the chat box, Okay, and if you like what you have seen or what you have heard, or this particular moment, I want you to just like my page, on my YouTube channel. Just like my YouTube channel there. You can subscribe to it, and you can also, so that whenever anything is dropped there that concerns you'll be able to see it proper to your system. So like my page, like my YouTube channel. Okay, make your comments as it were, or whatever it is, or any comment, any questions, and then I'll be there to answer as much as possible. Thank you very much for being part of the class. God bless you.